This episode is proudly sponsored by Naturally Bahamian and Amber L. Contact us today to learn how you can be a part of the vibration experience. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Vibration, where we empower individuals to speak their distinct truth, passions, and personal message on a global online stage. I'm your host, Michelle McDonald, passionate foodie, author, and entrepreneur. And tonight, I give a special thank you to our show sponsors, Naturally Bahamian and Amber L. Our topic tonight continues with our theme, and it is Food Security Matters, on the road to ending hunger in the Bahamas. As someone who has volunteered at a local meal kitchen, this topic truly touches my heart. And with that, I am delighted to bring on our guest speaker tonight, Precious Fortune Thompson, who is a proud alumni of St. Mary's University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. She currently serves as the outreach manager for Hands for Hunger, located in New Providence, Bahamas. She is also a national consultant for the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, and also the chief of people and culture at 242 Jobs. With experience throughout the various sectors, Precious brings a wealth of knowledge and skill sets in human resource management, youth development, education, nonprofits, and sustainable food practices. Precious is an entrepreneur who loves the French language, traveling, making a difference, and very much enjoys good food. With a love for community, youth, and giving back, Precious is an avid humanitarian who continues to remain active in various service organizations and initiatives. Precious, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I'm so excited for us to talk about food security. That is such a heavy topic that I always love talking about.
Absolutely. And so I really appreciate just how expansive this conversation is going to be tonight. I'm sure that there are so many people who are going to be inspired by your story and also by the work that you do or continue to do with Hands for Hunger. Precious, your heart for community and passion for giving truly shows throughout your work at Hands for Hunger, and most recently was recognized during Cable Bahamas' Connecting People Who Care initiative. What was the initial spark that fueled this passion? And tell us more about your journey that led to Hands for Hunger.
What fueled this? What sparked it? To be honest, if I could go all the way back to high school, I was always like big in a lot of like civic organizations. And nonprofit groups. Like I always assumed a lot of student leadership roles. And I think it began then from as a child, as into a teenager, then into college, and then I guess into my adult life. So I guess I just kept elevating. My first passion when it came to give back was when I would say most notably involved with Key Club. And eventually I went on to be the district governor for the Bahamas, which afforded me a lot of different experiences working with causes on an international level. And then from there, I just kept going. I think that's something, it's just in me. When you talk about like where your heart really is at, anything to do with giving back, and I think making a difference to me, I think that's where my passion and my heart lies. And so, I love any work. It does not like right now I do a lot of, I guess, food assistance, but anything that allows me to make a difference or an impact, regardless of what industry or whatever it is, that's where my heart is.
Love it. And so you're saying that basically all of the work that you did in high school, something that was very innate to you, was very natural, and all of that has led to your current role as outreach manager. Yes?
Oh, I guess. I mean, I smart.
We know
I work
that.
hard. I guess I have other like good attributes and a great character to go along with that, and also an outgoing personality. And I think that that has helped me in my role. If I was to ask myself, say, Precious, would I be here 5 or 10 years ago? I probably would say no. And when I say that, I wouldn't say it in the sense of like in working with an NGO, but what I would say is because of my background, pardon me, because of my background, like prior to that, working with in HR and working in education, I wouldn't have said like I would actually be working for an NGO. I assumed that I would still be like maybe volunteering with an NGO. So it's rather different, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I love the work that I do, and I think that I can tackle any sector. That's just how confident I feel.
Thank you for that. And your story is actually really inspiring because in high school, and I'm sure that this connects with youth development, they do talk a lot about being a part of different service organizations, doing extracurricular activities. And so a lot of the students don't really understand where that can take them in their journey. So, in understanding that they can actually be in a new sector, making a difference, and all of that has connected to what they did in high school, I think that really, really says a lot.
But you know what's so funny? Even when you look at Hands for Hunger was started by high school students, which a lot of people don't
Hmm.
realize. It was started by Elena Rogers. She was a high school student at the time. She had a passion. Her and her friends had a vision for the work of, food insecurity. Well, more so food wastage, that then evolved into food insecurity. And so that student leadership in her basically is what transformed into a very structured and respectable NGO. And so I do believe that the key is student leadership, taking
Hmm.
on roles in school, assuming responsibilities, getting your feet wet, trying to be engaged and involved. It definitely will set you up as you get older.
Wow, thank you for that, Precious. I actually really did not know that, and that is such a
That's a fun
beautiful
fact.
message. Yes, that it started with a high school student, and it allows them to know that you at your age can make a difference. They tend to think that, when I'm in high school, I'm just a kid, I'm just figuring
No.
out life, but your passions, your ideas can really make an impact around the world. Through our current theme, much has been said about the value of locally grown and sourced produce, the natural nutrients found in each one, and how important it is to ensure that we nourish our bodies on a regular basis. Hand for Hunger's Food for Thought Forum is one that highlights these as well, with a focus on the topic of national food security, health, and hunger. Why was it important for Hands for Hunger to raise public awareness on these topics? And how closely are they connected to each other?
Well, I think the first step is as a people, when you look at food insecurity, is what that means is not having access to food. And the first step is can we tackle food insecurity? I think as individuals, yes. Maybe we can't save the entire world like tomorrow, but we can start growing our own foods right indoors in our home. Whereas you get couple seeds and you can begin planting tomatoes, you can begin growing lettuce outdoors. Like you can start somewhere where you're able to feed yourself. And so when you think about food for thought, it's like how do we link, making sure that you have access to food and basically you're able to grow your own food, and then also eating local. By eating local, you're eating more, even more healthier foods. It has less additives, less steroids, all those things they add into these vegetables and fruits to grow them and give them a longer shelf life. Everything is healthier. And what's also more important is, supporting local vendors. Because the more local vendors you support, the more local farmers you support, you're also adding to the economy. So I think creating that awareness is very important, and allowing persons to see their options. Because well, what I would also like to say is I do see that there's been a shift, especially since the onset of the pandemic. There are
Right.
more and more persons that are growing their own foods. Little thyme, little aloe. I have a
Yes.
little aloe plant. I be picking from that every day. And for me, that's important because I don't have to go to the food store to actually now go and buy that. And I get to
Mm-hmm.
save a couple dollars on that particular plant. Um, and if I want, thyme is very easy, mint is very easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to season my foods without having to go to the food store. And so creating this awareness, showing people like what they can do from at home, right, in their own backyards or in it's a great step forward as it's linked to food security.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the first time that I had heard about it, I was super excited. I actually went to the session that had Red Rabbit located in New York, and the Bahamian that was speaking about it, he was a huge part of it. And I was just in awe just to think of how he was helping to change the relationship with food with these young kids, right? So they're able to understand how certain foods are made, the value of vegetables, because normally kids are like, vegetables are yucky, but it helped them to understand the different colors, the nutrients in it, and they liked it. They were excited, and he was passionate about it, and it was just wow. We were getting
Michelle,
out there.
there's something you said. Kids think vegetables are yucky. And you know what? I hear that all the time because we do a lot of feeding initiatives, especially with kids in the schools. Like right now, we have summers coming up. So we're getting ready to do our summer camp feeding initiative. And one of the things I always get from the adults when you begin asking, okay, we're going to be providing. So one thing about us is we love to provide food, but not just any type of food. We like to say we provide access to healthy foods that have nutritional value. So when we're talking about feeding kids at a camp, we're not talking about hot dogs and hamburgers. We're trying to give you baked chicken and sweet potatoes and some broccoli, And so we always get, oh, I'm not sure the kids are gonna like it. They're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
eat it. But the reality of it is, it's not that they don't like it. They're not used to it. It's not a lot of vegetables and fruits are not where the access is just there, where every day they're eating these things. And so if you were to say, okay, let me go and do a survey on how often do you eat fruits or vegetables, you will realize that there are so many kids that don't have a lot of fruits and vegetables during the week, even adults. And
Mm-hmm.
so they don't, you assume they don't like it because they say it's yucky, but it's not that. It's the fact that they're not used. They don't know what is eggplant because they've never had it in a diet. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know what it is to have sometimes sweet potato, because nowadays sweet potato is now even more common
Yes.
for us in our diets. You have that
Mm-hmm.
mashed, you can have that boiled, you can have that fried into fries. And so, they've not been used to that. But the more I find that the more that you expose our young kids and people to these vegetables and fruits, they're eating them and they're loving them. And to date, I have not had an incident where we have provided healthy food choices to schools or to people and they've turned it away. They actually embrace it. They actually love it
Good.
because it's something new to them. And that's why this awareness is even more important. And,
Yes.
and even when we provide awareness, is also showing them how they can cook and prepare these vegetables
Mm-hmm.
to make it taste good, because like just this week, someone said to me, oh, people don't like eggplant. But what if we showed them how to make eggplants, how
Mm-hmm.
to marinara it, how to grill it up, how to saute it up, how to use it in pastas,
Mm-hmm.
how to bake it with some meat and stuff inside of it. You'll be surprised how many people now begin to consume these products more and more.
Yes, absolutely agree. That makes sense. And that is awesome. I love that message that you are also helping Bahamian kids in the community to have a better relationship with food, help them to have access to it. And it also broadens their horizon into the types of foods that they're eating. They can be more intentional, they can connect more with the colors, and that is going to create something, a new perspective for them going forward. And I know
Most
one more thing that I had appreciated with that presentation. There was a nurse there. And so she was actually talking about how hunger impacts children and youth in school, not being able to focus and noticing kids that are actually hungry. They're not saying it, but the teachers and the nurses, they understand what to look for. And I thought that that message was so, so deep.
Well, and interesting that you say that. And I think that is what has led H4H to actually open 15 pantries in schools, because we
Wow.
see the direct link between hunger and their educational development. Because if
Yeah.
I'm going to school hungry, I'm gonna be fatigued. I'm gonna have headache. I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be nauseous. You're gonna have kids
Mm-hmm.
falling out. And one of the things that we see, guidance counselors and teachers, they say they have a high percentage of students that come to school each day hungry. They don't have access to food. And so by providing like these pantries in the schools, it gives students the ability to have that access where they do not have to be hungry. Because if they're not hungry, they're able to function, they're able to focus, they're able to achieve higher scores and grades because they're not focusing on where their next meal is coming from. They're focusing on, excelling in school. So there is a direct linkage. And so
Thank you so much. 15 pantries at different schools. Wow. And I know
mhm.
just based on what you said that it is making a difference and the students are truly benefiting from that and able to focus a lot more on their education. So the Hands for Hunger Client Choice Pantry allows individuals the unique opportunity to select the items that best serve their families. It is also one of the ways that the organization shows its commitment to a hunger-free Bahamas. Tell us more, and you've already touched on a few, on Hands for Hunger's many initiatives that are aiding in providing a form of food security for those in the Bahamas.
Well, I love how you start about the H for H pantry. That is a very special. I think the whole team is very proud of that, the pantry project.
Mhm.
So we're actually 1 year into the pantry, and the pantry is special because it's client choice. Client choice allows persons to, still have their dignity intact. What we find is, and this is where we go back to food waste. Persons are more inclined to waste less if they have a choice rather than you just giving them a bunch of items that they may not be able to consume, because everybody is different. So when you're talking about food assistance, sometimes we have to take, we shouldn't look at it as, oh, this person need food so they should take what they get. No, this may be somebody who has diabetes or hypertension or someone who is vegan, and so you have to take a lot of that into consideration. And
Mhm.
I think by allowing people to know that they have a choice in what they're able to get, it makes the experience so much more worthwhile, because persons are less afraid of the stigma attached to getting assistance. Assistance, getting assistance in the Bahamas is one of those things like, oh, you shouldn't do it. But now, when you create such a safe space where people feel comfortable to come into a place to get assistance, it's not even considered assistance. And that's why, like, even for us, we call every person that comes to Hands for Hunger a client. You are our client,
Love it.
because, you know, you're not somebody we're helping with assistance. No, you're our client. We're here to serve you.
Mhm.
So now let's look at all the other ways. So we do food rescue, and that's where we rescue any surplus foods from the hotels and restaurants. And so what would usually happen is there may be foods that are left over. Let's say KFC at the end of the night, all that nice, juicy smelling chicken. We we about to collect that because that ain't
Oh,
about to. So we're gonna collect that and we're gonna give that to one of our agencies who who has a need, meaning that the food doesn't go to waste. Then we have our pantry programs. Then we do community markets. Community markets allow us to go into different communities and provide access to fresh fruit and vegetables and to utilize as much local farmers as possible. And so it's important to be able to provide that access, because when you look even at how the cost of living is so high and how the cost of food is high, um, you a lot of times you ain't trying to buy healthy because it's expensive.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the biggest bang for your buck. And so by providing persons access to fresh fruits and vegetables, that's important to us. And then we do a lot of different initiatives year round, such as, the summer camp, island-wide distribution. So we're just constantly going, constantly going, constantly going. We feed a lot of people, and I think it's, to us, it's more than just feeding people. It's
Mm-hmm.
creating a safe space for people to know that they're able to get the much needed food items that they need.
Love that. Thank you, Precious. And one of the things that I really appreciate that you said is you look at everyone as a client. That
Hmm.
word has so much value in it. And I know that it allows them to feel valued and respected. They're
Yeah.
not thinking, as you stated, about the assistance aspect of it. They're like, you know what? I've come to this organization. I know they care about my dietary needs. They care about if I eat. They care about my family. They're helping me to provide for them. And they respect me. And so they can come in and, like you said, they have their dignity, they have their integrity, and they feel confident, they feel good about themselves, and both of you are working together to provide that form of food security for their families. So that is absolutely beautiful. And I
But
love. Mhm.
so go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love the food inclusion aspect of it because, as you stated, typically persons would get one type of box. And if you don't really understand how they eat, or sometimes even how their body works, not something that they can change, then they feel excluded, even though they're appreciative. But through the pantry and providing that choice for them, there is a form of food inclusion. And so you can come here and you can get the food that really does best serve for you. I think we had a bit of technical difficulties, but I know that many of you out there are enjoying this conversation. I know that I am. We have touched on so many different factors with education, high school, empowerment, knowing that our youth can truly add and make a difference throughout the community, where Hands for Hunger has started, also changing their relationship with food, and all of the initiatives that Hands for Hunger is doing. And so we are going to have Precious. She's come right back on. Hello.
Hello. No, so where you were talking about back to the dignity and stuff, right? Like, good examples for us, we've had groups of refugees that we work with. And these are persons that have a lot of dietary restrictions. They don't eat meat. Majority of them are kosher or vegan. Um, and so being able, I think that's another reason too that we love when we talk about choice is, persons have that choice to know that they're able to get food to their dietary needs. In addition to that, we've done the digital gift cards that have allowed persons to stay at home. You collect your gift certificate on your phone. You go to the food store to scan to pay. It's quick, it's easy.
Wow.
Nobody has to know. We've done home
Mm-hmm.
delivery service, just like Domino's. Hi, I'm calling from Hands for Hunger to deliver your food package. So we've done it all. We've continued. I think what I love most about our work is the ability for us to stay ahead of the game, to
Mm-hmm.
innovate ways that we can provide food safely and in a manner that people still have their dignity intact. And I think that's very important.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I love that mobile aspect, the one on the phone. Oh, perfect.
Yes. And we've used that through Canoe. So even like when the
Mm.
pandemic started, one of the things was, okay, how do we get food to people quickly, safely, and
Mhm.
discretionary? And what we found is by utilizing technology, it has basically shifted the way that people receive foods. You don't have to be waiting on no long line under no tree or, like, we don't want that for people.
Yeah.
We see you more than that. So for us, it's staying ahead of the game and innovating ways that we can help as much people as possible. So like this week, we are getting ready to do our community markets, but it's almost going to be like a relaunch for us, because since the pandemic we've been going mobile, door to door. But by going door to door, it means that items have been prepackaged. Now
Mm.
we're able to, in a couple of days, go big or go home, festival style.
Yay!
You want. And so I'm excited for that. And I think what gives me most joy is that other people are happy, that
Yeah.
the joy that we bring to families that are in need.
Love it. And I know that so many are looking forward to that event coming up. I am excited for you all. We have Tanya Dion Maycock Duncombe saying good stuff here in the comment section. So we got people rooting for y'all. Hands for
Thank
Hunger
you.
is making its mark throughout the Bahamas, and I love it. Connecting with communities and families throughout the islands, with one of the ways being the Eleuthera Mobile Community Market. What are the ways that Hands for Hunger has made a presence throughout the community and ensures that each island is reached?
So I think we've done a great job, I guess, over the years in assisting various islands with surplus items, well, food items, but and through working with basically the local churches on the ground. I do feel as if we can do a bit more, because the majority of our work is here in New Providence. And I think one of the best steps that we took is, the Eleuthera Mobile, well, that was the full island mobile community market, where we went from north completely to south. And
Wow.
so with doing that, I know we're in the process of expanding to put
Mhm.
more pantries on family islands.
Love it.
And so it's coming, it's a working progress. A lot of what has delayed, when you look at getting food to the items, is reliable cargo, like transferring it, and then also like sending like produce items is a challenge, because you don't want produce sitting out on the dock all day or being in a hot area, because it's going to spoil. You don't want to be
Mhm.
giving spoiled food. So it's a working progress.
Awesome. And we do appreciate every effort that Hands for Hunger is making. We know that you guys are pushing hard and we support you. While most are familiar with food security, which is defined as when all people have all access to reliable and adequate amounts of nutritious, safe, and culturally appropriate food, there are some startling statistics when it comes to food insecurity in the Bahamas. One of which is that 1 in every 3 persons in the Bahamas lives below the poverty line and experiences severe food insecurity. In your experience, what does food insecurity look like, and how does it impact individuals in the Bahamas?
Well, the statistics are startling. The statistics were startling before Dorian, and it got worse during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I do know that prior to that, the last research that was done jointly, I think that was through the Department of State, showed that 40% of the Bahamian population was either below or at the poverty line. And that's where
Mm.
you're probably talking about 1 in 3 persons are food insecure. And that is actually correct. A lot of people think that being food insecure means that you're probably begging or something. No, food insecure means can look like, okay, I am employed
Mhm.
and I'm bringing home an income, but my income is not sufficient. So that may be like, I have to make a choice. Do I buy food or do I pay rent? Do I
Mhm.
buy food? Do I pay my light bill? Do I buy food? Do I get the necessities that I need for my child? And so food food insecure is sometimes making that harsh decision when it comes between you choosing between your hunger or getting something to eat and having to do something else that you actually need. And that is the sad case we see a lot, because there are a lot of people that come to us that they are employed, but for various different reasons, their employment is not enough. And what I see here in the Bahamas, because we all live here, the cost of living is so high. And let me show you the reality of it. So let's look at the cost of buying a gallon or a carton of milk, right? Mm-hmm. Minimum wage is $5.25 an hour. A gallon of milk now is roughly about almost $10. Wow. What that means is someone has to work 2 full hours to be able to buy 1 gallon of milk.
Serious thing.
But people don't think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reality that most people face when you're looking at $2.10 to go into the food store nowadays, you're probably going to only walk out with 7 items. So how do people survive in these times? And that's why you find a lot of people being food insecure, because it's the cost of living is high, and whatever they're making is just simply not enough. And even for persons to be healthy, to eat healthy, a lot of people love to place me, we are a nation that is obese. But it's cheaper. If I'm a mother of 3, it's cheaper for me to go to McDonald's to get $4 hamburgers. They probably ain't $1 now, $1.99. Then for me to go into the food store to have to buy groceries. And that's the harsh reality for some people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that it allows us to look at things just a bit differently in understanding the possibilities and the realities of what's out there. And, another thing too, when it comes to inflation, not just on the food itself, but it's also fuel, right? We always think that fuel is only connected to vehicles, it's only about getting from here to there, but it impacts everything. Mm-hmm. If we think about the vendors and the suppliers for them to collect the food items and everything else, that takes gas for them to get from one place to the next. And so, sometimes these costs are rolled onto us and it has an impact. And you would see that correlation from time to time.
Most definitely. It's really hard out here for a lot of people. That's the best, simplest way I can put it. But despite it being hard for people, I'm happy that there are NGOs, not just only Hands for Hunger, because you do have Bahamas Feeding Network, you do have the Red Cross. I'm grateful that there are NGOs, great commissions that are out here that are trying to bridge that gap to help people as much as possible. So even with us, one of the things that we say is when persons are on our programs, we keep them enrolled for a minimum of 3 months at a time. Nice. And the reason for that is if we are helping you with your food, then you're able to channel your funds elsewhere and focus on other things. Mm-hmm. And that's what we love. And so I do see for us expanding over the years is definitely going to be a big thing, because there are a lot of people that need help. There are a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the aspect you guys are coming from, where you keep those persons on for 3 months because you understand the value that you are giving them, and it allows them to kind of catch up in other sections and be able to provide in other ways for themselves. And I know that they're truly appreciative of that. And of course, a special thank you to, as you mentioned, the other organizations that are out there helping communities and helping persons to survive and avoid food insecurity as much as possible. And also I wanted to just include the Lord's Kitchen as well as one of those organizations. And it's awesome. It's awesome that they're out there, they're working, and they're making a difference. So of course, we're talking about collaborations. Let's talk partnerships. It's truly when we work together that we can make a wider impact. as noted in one of my favorite UN Sustainable Development Goals, number 17, which focuses on partnerships for goals. Hands for Hunger has been connected with several local organizations who are committed to making a difference throughout the community. How has the collaboration with corporate partners helped in Hands for Hunger's outreach efforts?
You know what? I'm so proud of our corporate partnerships over the years. Before, a lot of corporate partners just used to, just donate financially. But now what I see is a shift in that our corporate partners are helping our outreach in even a bigger and better way because they're actually volunteering for these causes themselves and also helping us create public awareness, which is to end hunger and combat food insecurity and combat food wastage. And so what I see now is no longer are they just writing checks, but they're being a part of the full process from start to finish. Whereas they're going into the communities with us, and people are getting a deeper appreciation and a better understanding for what we do and why it's important for what we do. And so, as the months come, as the years come, I just embrace more corporate partners because there's so much work to be done. And one of the things that I always hashtag is we are a community. The work cannot be done alone. We need alone. We need the hands of everyone to tackle hunger, to feed as many people as possible, but not just feed people, but come up with sustainable approaches whereas people could then begin to feed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that corporate partners are doing a great work. What I can see, I'm just speaking personally from my experience over the past 2 years.
Awesome. That is great. Yes, yes, yes. I love hearing it. Companies coming together. And I think just the fact that when they come, they're getting their hands dirty, they're getting really involved. It means that they understand the value of what they're doing, but more importantly, the value of Hands for Hunger. Knowing that being a part of this initiative or this particular event, they are making a wider impact for the Bahamian community. And I believe that that is what motivates them to just do more and raise public awareness. We see them and we know that it is helping to build change and also changing the narrative.
And you know what's also like I find that with corporates, so what I see too is there are a lot of corporate partners giving incentives or day back for their staff to volunteer. And so with that, their staff are even becoming more intrigued and more engaged because they're learning more and more about what's happening in the community.
Yes, absolutely. And then if you think about it, if I know as a worker that I have the day off, it means that I can actually give as much time and energy that as much as possible into this process. I can get really ingrained in the system. As you mentioned, I can learn a lot more. And so that is actually a very good initiative by their employer for that. Yeah.
Yes, man. And you'll be like, I get so much joy when people be like, oh, well, I didn't know you guys do this amount of work or you help this amount of people. And now I see why the need is so important because it's one thing to see like in the media, oh, we're giving out food and what we're doing. But when you get to understand the real impact,
yes,
that's where the difference lies. And then when you get to be a part of that impact, and see why it's so important. That's, a lot of lives be changed.
There you go. Hey, even your own, because now you're inspired. You're like, wow,
Exactly.
I thought
And you want
I
to
would
do it
just,
again and again and again and
exactly.
again and again. And
Yeah,
then you realize that this life is much more. It's so much like you get a deeper sense of gratitude by just giving.
yes.
By just giving. Serving
I
others.
agree. Yes, yes, girl. Precious, I agree with you there, girl. I have a similar connection to it. I just love that. And as you stated, it takes you out of your own perspective, right? We all have our individual worlds. But when we step out of that and we realize that the things that we think are so small, that by putting the energy and the time and your heart into it, you are
Mm-hmm.
doing so much more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
those couple of hours, you could have been doing anything else in the world. But by you volunteering it and putting it into this initiative, lives are changed. When you see the looks on their faces, those people that you're helping, priceless.
That's how I
Absolutely.
sleep good at night. No, so I'm not gonna tell no lie now. The work, the NGO work, humanitarian work, giving back is hard. But when
Yes.
you have a true passion, a true desire for it, and you know that you're actually, so what can happen is you can have a day where, let's say, you had 200 people that were just disgruntled because you supposed to give them the world, whether you believe it or not. But then you have
Mm-hmm.
one person that just stops and make you realize why you love what you do. And that's what makes me sleep good at night, because when I go to sleep, I was like, man, I didn't make a good difference today. Someone to tell me how I didn't give them joy today, how I didn't be a part of that impact. And
Yes.
that's, to me, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So, it's true passion and true desire for this work.
Mm-hmm. And as you stated, if it's just one person, it's more than enough.
Yeah.
So, Precious, from our discussion, there seems to be a variety of ways that individuals, companies, and business owners can show their support for helping our fellow Bahamians and changing the impact of food insecurity in the Bahamas. Let us know how we can be a part of this process and make a change in the life of others.
Well, I mean, invite us to do a hunger huddle. Let us talk about food insecurity and why it's important, because we want to create that awareness within your circle, so within your company. You can start your own can drive. Can drives go, the food is either it goes to our pantry, which is client choice, or through one of our 40 agencies that we support. Persons could donate online financially. So yeah, or you can be a part of a voluntary initiative. So, or you want to plan an outreach event. So there's so much ways that people can get involved and stay involved. You just got to reach out. That's the first step. Don't be afraid to call us. So
Yes. And I love that hunger huddle. That sounds so
yeah,
catchy.
that's what we call it, our hunger huddle. Because we want to huddle you in, and we want to talk about this hunger. Why we out here trying to end it?
Yes, 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 yes. And it's a conversation people need to hear about. I think that a lot of people are just unaware. They don't realize that hunger is impacting us as a country. They're not exposed to it. They don't realize that food wastage is an issue, and they don't realize the value of food security. There's so much, like, we all have the power to change that, and sometimes it's just the lack of knowledge. So I love that. I love that.
I do agree. Lack of knowledge and lack of exposure. And I do think sometimes, there are people, they don't have to think about where their next meal is coming from. And when you don't have to think about that, you sometimes just carry on life without thinking about someone else, not realizing that there's someone that might be working right next to you or
Yes.
sitting in the same office as you, struggling, deep down in there. And so, the awareness is important. Being more sensitized to the issues that are in front of us is also important. So
Yes,
that's for the future.
absolutely. Precious, thank you so much for your insight on how critical food security is into ensuring that we grow into a hunger-free Bahamas. I applaud you for your dedication and passion that continues to shine through in many ways. I thank Hands for Hunger for being intentional in their drive towards providing awareness, changing the narrative, and creating avenues for Bahamians to be a part of this impactful movement. I also appreciate that there are ways that we can all be a part of this process, and it teaches us to reconsider how we can reduce food wastage, while we can also reduce food insecurity and give back through simple acts. To connect with Precious and be a part of this movement towards ending hunger in the Bahamas, you can contact her at 242-327-1660 or via email at info@handsforhunger.org. This episode is proudly sponsored by Naturally Bahamian and Amber L. A special thank you to our audience for watching and to our guest speaker, Precious Fortune Thornton, who continues to change lives as well as share joy and love through her humanitarian acts, and most notably as the outreach manager at Hands for Hunger. If you've missed the first half of this episode, you have missed a lot. You can catch the full replay on this Facebook page. Follow me for more show updates and tune in next week for another episode of Vibration, where we raise your frequency and amplify your truth. See you next week. Bye, everyone.